Sixers fans, how we feeling out there? Hey y'all, my name is Lauren Gordon. Some of you may already know me on social media as Lauren Fan of the Year. Others may have just stumbled upon this podcast. But either way, I want to first thank all of you for tuning in to Season 2, Episode 18 of my very first podcast. I'm just a Sixers fan, the Lauren Fan of the Year story. Now let's continue the story. Y'all, the time is now late December 2021. There were still rumors swirling around where free agent Damian Lillard would land, and I wanted him in a Sixers uniform. Dame could be the missing piece needed to get us over the hump to the Eastern Conference Finals. On December 6th, I read somewhere that Damian Lillard said he wanted to play with Ben Simmons. I had even read another article saying he wanted to go to the Knicks. Well, I definitely didn't want that. If Dame wasn't coming to Philly, I wanted him to stay in Portland, or at least in the Western Conference. After sharing a bunch of trade rumors on social media, I thought, even though these are just rumors, I got a feeling that something is about to go down. The very next day, on December 7th, there was breaking news. CJ McCollum had a collapsed right lung and would be further evaluated for when he could return. Y'all, CJ McCollum was Damian Lillard's teammate in Portland. He wasn't just a teammate. He was the Robin to Dame's Batman. They were the Portland Trailblazers' dynamic duo. Of course I felt bad for CJ. Like, having a collapsed lung is serious. Y'all, this was bigger than basketball. Yet, at the same time, in the back of my mind, I couldn't help but think how this news could impact Dame's decision to leave Portland. Losing both of their star players? That would be a serious blow. Kendall was still on winter break, and we wanted to take full advantage of our time together. We had just had an amazing time in Atlanta, and we were already booking flights, hotel, and game tickets to our next destination. Our next Sixers road game? Y'all, we were headed to Memphis for the Sixers-Grizzlies game. On December 13th, just 10 days after being in Atlanta, Kendall and I were now in Memphis. We took an early morning flight because I never want to risk a flight delay and not arriving in time for the game. Plus, I like to take full advantage of seeing the city. And this was our first time in Memphis. After landing, we went directly to the hotel. Unfortunately, this was one of those rare occasions when the hotel would not allow us early check-in. No worries. We wanted to see and experience Memphis, so we went to the African American Civil Rights Museum at the Lorraine Motel. This is where civil rights leader Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. And I know y'all know that infamous photo of the civil rights leaders standing on the hotel balcony, pointing in the direction of where they believe the shot was fired. In fact, I believe one of the people pointing in that photo was Reverend Jesse Jackson. The Lorraine Hotel and Civil Rights Museum is a historic American landmark that we just had to visit. We caught a lift, and since we didn't check into the hotel, we just carried our gym bags, which was our carry-on bags, with us to the museum. Kendall and I took photos outside of the museum, and we couldn't believe we were actually there. It was as if we stepped into our history books. I had seen that exact location where I was standing under the Lorraine Motel sign, but only in the black and white pages of my textbooks. It was beginning to get very warm outside. I took off my red Sixers jacket and shoved it in my Sixers gym bag. I was glad the museum had a place where I could check in my bag so I didn't have to carry it around during the tour. Don't ask me why we didn't just leave our bags at the hotel. But this allowed me to be hands-free and just be fully submerged in the history. Kendall and I found the tour historic, fascinating, and life-changing. If you ever have a chance to visit Memphis, you must visit the museum and take the tour. I highly recommend it. My advice is to allow at least 4 hours to casually take everything in. Like, it's one of those places where you don't want to rush. So, y'all, after we finished the tour, Kendall and I, at that point, we were really, really hungry. We hadn't eaten anything all day, except for those little spice cookies and orange juice that we had on the plane. I checked out my Sixers gym bag, and then Kendall and I walked to a nearby barbecue spot. Y'all, we were in Memphis, and Memphis is known for their barbecue, so we were thrilled to find the restaurant within walking distance. When we walked in the door, everything smelled so good. But y'all, here's the thing. I don't eat meat. I'm pescatarian, which basically means I don't eat meat, but I do eat fish and seafood. Kendall got the barbecue platter, and I just got the sides, the mac and cheese, the vegetarian beans, and some cornbread. Now, I know that sounds boring, but it was really good, and it was satisfying. Then, after we ate, Kendall and I took a lift to the hotel, and we were finally able to check in. We got to the room and unpacked. I began digging through my bag, and I was like, Kendall, my red Sixers coat is missing. And she asked, are you sure? And I said, yes. The last place I had it was at the museum because I remember taking it off when it got hot and shoving it into my Sixers bag. And she said, well, do you think you left it at the restaurant or possibly in the lift on the way to the hotel? I went through the photos on my phone to jar my memory, and the last photo of me wearing the jacket was outside the museum. And I told Kendall, I remember putting it in my gym bag before checking it in at the museum. I called the museum's Lost and Found and was told that they did not have my red Sixers jacket. I left my contact information and mentioned how much my Sixers coat meant to me. I was sad because I loved that coat. I don't think anyone took my coat because why would someone in Memphis want a Sixers jacket? And to be honest, y'all, I have like 5 different Sixers outerwear jackets, but that one was my favorite. I was sad, but it was only for a moment. I had a Sixers game to get ready for. There was no reason to feel sad. It was time to get excited. Y'all, that was my Sixers play-by-play announcer, Tom McGinnis's voice. Well, anyway, Kendall and I charged our phones while we took a quick nap. Our bellies were full. The hotel room was just the right temperature. The bed was nice and comfy. And then when we woke up, we showered and got dressed, putting on our Sixers best. I wore my red and bead jersey. Kendall wore a Sixers baseball-style jersey over her red tights. We took our pregame pics in the full-length mirror and then headed over to the FedEx Forum. I remember thinking, thank goodness it was still warm outside, because remember, I didn't have my coat. When we arrived, Kendall and I did our normal routine. We go through security, we have our mobile tickets scanned, and then we walk the concourse to peep the concession and the Memphis fans. There were also a lot of Sixers fans in the arena, and whenever we ran into a Sixers fan, we would always give an air high five and a Sixers and Philly shout out. While taking in the experience of being a fan in a new and different arena, what I noticed right off the bat was that the arena was significantly smaller than the Wells Fargo Center, but it was very cozy. And what I found fascinating was it seemed like every Grizzlies fan wore powder blue tops, like every single fan. You know how as Sixers fans, We may wear jerseys or tops that are red or white or blue or navy blue or black. And when you look at the fans at the Wells Fargo Center, you see like variations of the different colors, right? Well, y'all, the Grizzlies fans, they're loyal to that powder blue. I had never seen anything like it. Like everyone wore powder blue. Kendall and I noticed it right away. Then we headed to our lower level seats, and we were right on time to see the players from both teams take to the court for their pregame warm-up. We clapped enthusiastically when we saw our Sixers. The players gathered around Coach Doc Rivers for a quick pregame huddle. Some of the players were seated on the bench facing the court, and other players were standing facing us, the fans, like in the stands. So, y'all, Tyrese Maxey was standing, and we locked eyes, and I was thinking to myself, oh my God, is he staring at me because he's trying to recall where he knows me? Or is he like, who is this woman and her daughter who keeps popping up at these games, not just the home games, but also on the road? We were both staring at each other, and I thought, maybe he's just looking my direction, but not necessarily looking at me. But y'all, honest to goodness, we were literally locking eyes. And I leaned into Kendall while still looking at Maxey, and I said, Kendall, I think Tyrese Maxey is looking at us. She leaned in, and now we're both looking at Maxey. And she says, Mom, I'm pretty sure he's not looking at us. He's just looking in this direction. And at that moment, y'all, I lifted my hand off my lap and I did a little wave. Like, I wish I could see it. You know, you just lift up your hand and you just do like, hi. And y'all, without hesitation, Tyrese Maxey waved back. We screamed and was like, oh my God. We were so excited because Maxey had acknowledged us. Like, the fact that he noticed us out of thousands of fans was pretty amazing. Maxey just laughed and locked back in to the huddle. We were at the game in Memphis, and Maxey knew we were there to cheer on our Philadelphia 76ers. We sat like 8 rows behind the bench. And what I also found interesting about the FedEx Forum is the fact that it's probably the quietest arena I had ever visited. So quiet, you could hear the players' conversations on the court and on the bench, and they weren't yelling. They were just talking normal, and the arena was full. It may not have been sold out, but y'all, it was definitely a full arena. I could tell the Grizzlies fans enjoyed the game, like they clapped and cheered, but y'all, they weren't hype like how we get at the Wells Fargo Center. Also, what I love about us is the fact that Sixers fans are passionate. The Grizzlies fans had decorum. They're probably the best behaved fan base in the entire NBA. And I also noted that our music at the Wells Fargo Center was so much better. I also remembered that during the national anthem, and if memory serves me correctly, it was sung a cappella, which means no music for those of you who don't know. It was complete silence, like you could hear a pin drop. Respectfully, that's how it's supposed to be during the national anthem. So I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. And I'm not trying to say that we're better fans. It was just something that I observed. And this is why I enjoy visiting other arenas. It's great having different fan experiences. And I have to mention that the Memphis Grizzlies fans were super nice. They made us feel very welcomed at their home arena. It was an entertaining game. The Memphis Grizzlies franchise player John Morant did not play due to injury, and y'all, they still beat us like bad, 126-91. Dylan Brooks had 23 points and Jaren Jackson Jr. had 22 points. Our leading scorer was my guy, Tyrese Maxey, with 23 points. Embiid did not play that night, and Andre Drummond had 6 points, 9 rebounds, but y'all, Charles Bassey came off the bench with an impressive double-double, 13 points, 10 rebounds. That's off the bench. Shake Milton also came off the bench and contributed 12 points. As a team, we came up short with an L on the road, but it was still an awesome experience. Kendall and I had a great time in Memphis. I had now seen my Sixers play in 8 different NBA arenas. I was grateful for this trip. I was grateful for it all. Remember I told y'all about my lost red Sixers jacket in Memphis? I went on Fanatics and it was no longer available. I went to the NBA store and it was no longer available. I even checked Amazon and had no luck. I wasn't surprised because I did have the jacket for a few years. So what I did was a Google search with the photo, and y'all, the jacket came up for sale on eBay. I screamed because I couldn't believe it. It was the same exact jacket, except this jacket had a championship patch on the sleeve, which I thought was really nice. It was the exact jacket, except it was an upgraded version. The eBay seller only had one jacket. And get this, y'all, it was in my size. Of course I purchased it, and I was able to replace my favorite jacket. My Sixers coat closet was now back to normal, and none of my inventory was missing. I was thrilled because what are the odds that I'd be able to find that one jacket again in an upgraded version in my size? Amazing, right? All right, so now we're at December 18th. And as a side note, y'all, on December 18th, that's Sixers champion and Hall of Famer, number 24, our Secretary of Defense, Bobby Jones's birthday. Of course, I tagged him in a Lauren Fan of the Year birthday post like I do every year. The very next day, on December 19th, a bunch of players on our team and on the New Orleans Pelicans team tested positive for COVID-19, and the game that evening had to be postponed. I was disappointed, but then I was like, listen, health and safety should always be the priority. This COVID-19 thing was no joke. Even at this point, we were still trying to get the spread of the virus under control. I posted on social media, no game tonight, but I'm still going to rep my team. Oh well, I might as well do my Christmas shopping now. I went shopping wearing my new replacement Sixers coat and my Spectrum City Edition pom-pom hat. On December 20th, just 5 days before Christmas, I was scrolling through social media and I came across a post by Joe Tattoos that had a photo of Ben Simmons getting a tattoo with the caption that read, "Motivation post only. Honored and humbled to have gotten this opportunity to tattoo my boy at Ben Simmons and his fiance and her friend from the UK, London. Awesome folks, good time, and great dinner, thanks to your chef," with the praying hands emoji. Strong-minded and humbled, talented ball player, you are the truth and greater things are being put into position for you, so keep striving, bro, with the strong arm emoji. Well, there was 2 of them, 2 strong arm emojis. I reread the caption and I thought, his fiance? Tattoos? Ben, you better get your butt in the gym and work on your free throws and a jump shot. I'm teasing, but not really. I get that players have a personal life, but at the same time, I was like, what is going on in Ben's head? Fiance? a tattoo. Like, Ben was so clean cut, and it just seemed like his head was all over the place. And I couldn't help but think, did Ben post this for attention? Like, was he trying to be relevant? As a fan, Ben was now an afterthought. My fan love and attention was now on Tyrese Maxey. And when I did think of Ben, it was more in terms of, like, who are we going to get to replace him? Later that evening on December 20th, we had to play Boston. And it's always a big game whenever we have to play the Celtics. Well, y'all, we got the win, 108-103. I posted on social media, nice win on the road, fellas. Boy, did we need that. Joel was amazing tonight with 41 points, 10 rebounds. Seth Curry had 26 points, and Tobias had 25 points. I love having big wins on the road like that, especially against the Boston Celtics. Nice balanced scoring, which means everyone stepped up and did their part. It was almost the end of the year. I checked the schedule and said, Kendall, I think we can make another road game before the end of your winter break. There's a road game the day before your birthday next week. Y'all, our next road game destination? Washington, D.C. We're off to see the Wizards. We're off to see the Wizards. This will now conclude Season 2. Thanks for tuning in, y'all. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And be sure to tune in September for Season 3 as we continue the story. Have a great summer, y'all.